Hey, welcome back to the Blue Veil Wellness Show. I am your host, Cristy Murray, a Catholic nurse practitioner, and this is the show where we dive deep into faith, food, and function. Because true wellness isn't just about what's on your plate or how many steps you took today. It's about nourishing your soul, fueling your body, and actually functioning as a whole person, the person that you were created to be. Today's conversation, I'm really excited about this. I've been looking forward to talking with Karen because it's something a lot of us are hungry for, but maybe don't know how to name that deeper connection, that sense of home, that anchor when everything else feels chaotic. We're talking about faith as a wellness practice, not in some abstract floating in the clouds way, but in real daily, I'm overwhelmed and I need someone to hold on to kind of way. Our guest today is Karen Estep. She is the voice behind the podcast Stand, Kneel, and Now What? And if that title makes you smile because you've ever felt completely lost during church service, you're going to love Karen. Karen came home to the Catholic Church as an adult, and she's been in this beautiful, messy, honest journey ever since. She doesn't pretend to have all the answers, and that's exactly why people connect with her. She's navigating faith with the same questions, the same doubts, the same wait, am I doing this right? These moments that so many of us have. And through her podcast, Karen creates this incredible space where it doesn't matter if you grew up going to church every Sunday, if you're just curious about what this whole faith thing is about, or if you walked away years ago and are wondering if there's a way back. She welcomes everyone to the table, or should I say to the pew. Love, humor, and a whole lot of grace. Karen, let's have you take it from here. Welcome to Blue Veil Wellness Show.
Well, thank you so much, Cristy, for having me on. And what an introduction. I'm going to steal that for my own podcast.
Okay, so first question for you is how has your Catholic faith journey influenced your understanding of mental and emotional health?
Yeah. So my Catholic faith journey, as you said, I came home as an adult and it's kind of as you introduced, it's just having an anchor. And I think also having a community of believers behind you. Part of my journey is I don't like to tell people I converted. I tell people I came home because I was always Christian. I was baptized Lutheran. And then I grew up in a church that no one has heard about. I grew up in the Salvation Army, which is like an offshoot of the Methodist Church. And so I grew up in the youth group, and I was really used to having this community around me. And then when my husband and I got married, we joined a Methodist church, and for different reasons, we left that church. But I was going through a season where I wasn't ready to maybe fully dive in deep, but I knew I needed a community of believers around me because I was losing, a big part of myself by not going to church all the time. I was losing not necessarily my faith in God, but like that those cheerleaders that you need that keep pushing you along the way to pray and to make sure that you're checking in by reading the Bible and by praying every day. And so I walked downstairs. My husband and I had been sending our kids to the Catholic school in town to go to preschool. And I just looked at him and I said, hey, what do you think about checking out the Catholic church that we're already sending our kids there? And he looked at me and he said, as long as they drink coffee and eat bacon, I don't care.
He knows his priorities.
Yeah. So my cousins are Catholic, and I said, I'm pretty sure I've had both coffee and bacon at my cousin's house. And yeah, so we checked it out, and unbeknownst to each other, we had prayed before we walked into mass that morning that if this is where we were supposed to be, that God make it abundantly clear. And he did. And we haven't left since. So
I love it. What a beautiful story and such supportive husband.
Yeah. And I looked at him and I said, I'm just craving the community that we had. And I need to get back into it. So that's really what brought me back into it. And I think so much of our faith is not lived in isolation. We're meant to live in community and be part of a faithful community.
I agree. It does make a big difference. Like when you walk in, you have to feel welcome. Seems like there's a lot of criteria that we put that criteria, but Jesus does not give us a criteria. We just, have to be there. But, as humans, we want that comfort and that craving, that, that feeling that we belong. And
Yeah.
of course, the sermon is good, but really we're not there for the sermon, but it does help, right? So yeah, so you talk openly about love and lots of blunders. Can you share a moment when getting it wrong actually led you to a deeper growth?
Yeah. So I often get the words wrong when we're doing response prayers, and I'm a really high reader, and anytime that there's like a response oral that the laity has to do, I constantly get it wrong. And at first I beat myself up, but then I was just like, whatever. But the biggest blunder that I ever had is um this is why Advent is also my favorite season. So my husband and I were still in RCIA at the time, which is now OCIA. However,
Mhm.
we were still in RCIA, and it was the first Sunday of Advent in 2021, but no one had told us that everything changes in Advent. Like
Oh,
we
yeah.
had, and I had prided myself on knowing the flow of mass and knowing what to say when. And yeah, I kept a little book hidden in, the little song book. Like I had a little cheat sheet that I would keep with me. But I had already I was like, I am so good that I want people to think I'm a cradle Catholic. I don't want people to think that I'm converting. And then the first Sunday of Advent, everything changes. And I had a panic attack in the middle of church. And I remember talking myself through the fight, flight, or freeze. And
Mhm.
so I was like, well, I can't fight anybody because because we're in the middle of church. And I was like, I
Mhm.
can't even go up and deck the priest who is, this 70-year-old man that everybody loves. Like if I walk up to the altar, I would not make it very far. Right. So I took fight off the table. I couldn't flee because my husband had both of our small children. I was like, what am I showing them if I run away from this? And so I froze. And it wasn't until I looked around at the other pews to realize that I was supposed to sit because I was still standing. I was like, I'm not going to do it. So it was in that moment that I realized that if I wanted to become Catholic, I was going to have to really want it. And I left church that day defeated. And I was like, I can't do this. It's too hard. No one told us that everything changes during Advent. And I left with this really big victim mentality of like, why didn't our director prepare us more and all of this other stuff. And it was really talking to my sponsor. And it was like, yeah, coming into the Catholic Church is going to be hard, and that's okay. It's not, he even said, it's not for wimps.
Oh, he said that.
And this was my husband's sponsor who was married to my sponsor, but he was like, it's not for wimps, and you're going to have to really want it, and you're not going to get everything perfect, and you're going to be, well into your 90s, and there's still going to be things to learn, and it's going to be okay.
That's a good sponsor. It's true though, because yes, you have to want it, right? Because things are not going to be perfect, and that's just life. There's going to be trials, and that is life. And once you get through those trials, hey, you're even stronger for it.
Yeah. Another blunder I could talk about real quick too, especially with prayer,
Hmm.
is I last Lent, and I always do this with Lent. I'm sure your listeners can understand, and maybe this is something you do too. I overdo myself for Lent. And I'm constantly doing this. And even when I was in the Methodist church, it's something that we did Lent too. And it was something that I was like, okay, if everybody's giving up chocolate, I'm going to give up chocolate and alcohol, or I'm going to give up chocolate, alcohol, shopping. And I'm also going to read my Bible every single day and journal. And there was always an and.
Hmm.
And this last Lent, I once again did the same thing. I was like, I'm only going to eat treats on Sunday. I'm going to not shop anymore. I'm not going to do this. And I'm going to pray more. And it was almost like God knows me so well. I took away prayer from me. I remember the first day of Lent, and I went to go pray, and I was like, I don't know how to pray. And I panicked again. I was like, I have been praying for 39 years, and all of a sudden I don't know how to, this is
Hmm.
ridiculous. And it was then that God placed on my heart, just pray the Our Father.
Oh, wow.
And so I did that for several weeks until I was able to like free prayer again. But
Mhm.
I just prayed the Our Father, and I just focused on that. And I just focused on the thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And it was then that I was able to fully surrender what I wanted to do for Lent and all the ands that I had created for myself. And I focused on making sure that I was doing God's will instead of my own.
I love it. It's I don't know if you're familiar with spiritual warfare, and because I listen to a lot of exorcist podcasts. Father
Mhm.
Henry Hill is one of them, and he would actually say that the devil will make you so busy, even though you're volunteering at church, he'll make you so busy that you won't have time to pray. So what a gift for you that you heard God say, just pray the Our Father, and just what a
Yeah.
grounding prayer.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And I'm thankful for it now, but at the time I was just so panicked. I was like, I don't know what to do.
You're a star. You're an A student for being Catholic. So, what do you think? What role does confession play in emotional healing and letting go of what weighs us down?
Yeah, so confession, I will be perfectly honest, is still a hurdle that I have to cross. Um, just because I don't know your faith background. Are you cradle Catholic or?
I'm cradle Catholic, but
Yeah.
now I just realized I'm lukewarm. I was lukewarm.
Yeah.
I just came back from pilgrimage 2 years ago, and like everything just changed for me. So that's
Yeah.
why I'm doing this show. I'm doing a lot of things now.
Awesome. Well, in the, Protestant traditions, we're often told there's no need for a priest, right? Like there's no need to have a priest listen to your confession, and you don't need to do that. And the priest can't absolve you. Like we're told that over and over again. And
Mhm.
so when it came time to do my first confession, I bawled like a baby. Um, but I still sometimes, after you hear it so many years in a row, I was 36 when I came home. I was 35 when we became interested in the Catholic faith. And so it's just one of those things that I have to like shift my mindset.
Mm.
But when I go to confession, when the last time I went to confession, I like audibly sighed as I was receiving absolution. And I always get so nervous before I go in. And I'm sure that that's not, a convert's problem. I'm sure lots of cradle Catholics
Yeah,
get nervous too.
yeah.
But it's such a physical and emotional release. And the priest that I'm really good friends with, he one time told me, he said, I don't think of it as something shameful. I'm
Mhm.
really proud of people that come to confession because it means you're trying.
Yes. And you're right, though. You will feel that audible sigh.
Mhm.
When the priest says, I absolve you of your sin, it's just like, okay, all the weight is off.
Yeah. So I don't cry as much anymore. But I do get really nervous, but it is my goal this year to go, because I was kind of like an every 3 months person. So I want to go every month this year. So that's my goal.
Good. That's good goal. So yeah, so you mentioned this year. So you've declared 2026 um, as your Marian year with daily rosary. So how do repetitive prayer practices affect our nervous system and our mental state?
Before the show, we had talked about this. Was diagnosed with depression and anxiety in high school, but I really wasn't given anything to manage that until I got to college. And so it's something that I have told people. I'm very honest and open about it. And I liken it to being addicted. So I know about myself that I will always have some sort of depression and anxiety going on in my life, whether I'm able to manage it or not. Like, and I'm not saying don't go get medicine if you need it. That's not what I'm saying at all. If you need it, take it. It's just something that didn't work for me the way I wanted it to. And so I no longer take medicine for it. So repetitive prayer helps, because when I tend to spiral into kind of hopelessness, or even my mind just goes in a million different places, making sure that I focus on, and I don't even have to meditate on Christ's life, but sometimes just focusing on that word, like the Hail Mary prayer, or I really like the Glory Be prayer when we do the rosary, just focusing on those simple words and not even necessarily focusing on the meditations of it, but just getting it out sometimes is really good. Even in like my worst before I was diagnosed or anything, I used to always repetitively say like, God, I love you. God, I love you. Like when I was getting like really nervous. And so it was somewhat second nature for me.
Yeah, so we had talked about like me being cradle Catholic. My children go to a Catholic school. They go to Holy Rosary Academy. It's a wonderful school. And they have the children do thesis presentations. And it's amazing what these kids like do their presentations on.
Yeah.
They talked about like repetitive prayer. They talk about like their specific types of distractions when you're praying. And I'm like, how come I don't know about this?
I know my kids go to a Catholic school too, and it's just they come home and I'm like, you guys are so much smarter than I am.
Yeah. So for someone who's like never prayed the rosary but struggle with anxiety, what would you say to them?
I really like the advice that Shannon Wint gave, and she is the creator of Choose Life, and she was on my show not too long ago. And I had kind of told her that, you know, I never really liked praying the rosary because A, it's kind of long, and B, like I don't remember certain prayers, and C, I can get lost in things, and like the perfectionist in me wants to always get it right. And she said to me, the only imperfect rosary is the one you don't start.
Yeah.
And I kind of took that to heart. Like yesterday, I was praying my rosary, and I think I did, instead of a decade, I did 11 Hail Marys.
Yeah.
And I went, oh man. But then I was like, you know what? It's fine. And then I noticed one day I was doing it in this string of, you know, I'm on day 16, that I don't think I was saying the entire Hail Mary, because there was like, I was in the car, my kids were, you know, loud in the back, we were listening to music. And so I think I was just saying Hail Mary full of grace. And then I was moving on to the next piece. And I was like, okay, do I have to go back and redo it? And I was like, no, Mama Mary recognizes that I put in effort today, and that's as good as I can get with all the noise.
Yeah. Yeah, it's you're right though. It's like the only imperfect one is the one you don't say. And then you don't, it doesn't have to be perfect all the time. So similar story, my husband and I were with a group, it's called the Alpha Group, because we wanted to volunteer more at church. And then they had said, okay, you know, start with this group. So we had a meeting at someone's house, and someone had shared that they were really unhappy at their work. And then they said, you know what, I'm not going to be unhappy. But he's a geologist, so he's out like in remote. He's like, I don't like my coworkers, I'm miserable here. But then he started praying the rosary. So he would say the Hail Mary. And then I asked him, like similar to your question. I said, well, how can you keep up if you're working? How can you hold the beats? How do you know that you're not short on the decades or you're not going over? And similar answer, he said, you know, you're praying it, Mama Mary will know.
Yeah.
And so because of that, like his mood started changing. He's happier, and even his coworkers started like, "Why are you happy nowadays?" And he said, "Because I'm." I don't remember if he said that, but deep inside him, he said, "Yeah, because I'm doing this."
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. So how do you balance spiritual goals with the reality of being human and imperfect?
Ooh, that's a good one. One of the things that has really helped me was when I moved. So I used to be a public school teacher, and I found it really hard to hide, not necessarily hide, but, and for good reason, public school teachers aren't supposed to talk about religion, and they're not supposed to talk about politics. And I 100% agree with that. However, while I was teaching there, it was really hard to hide that part of me, because I was so on fire for the whole, like with the Holy Spirit, for the Lord. And I wanted Catholicity to be a part of everything that I was doing, whether it was at school or at home or, you know, with my husband or even out and about. Like I didn't want to worry that I was wearing a Catholic shirt to work. You know what I mean? Or if I wore a shirt, because I love Lauren Daigle, and I had gone to one of her concerts while I was still teaching in public school, and it says, "Thank God I do" on it. And my husband is a public school teacher, and I came downstairs and I was like, "Hey, do you think I'm going to get in trouble for wearing this?" And he was like, "Yeah, probably because it mentions God. And they have those rules for a reason, but I was really struggling with it. And now I teach at a Catholic high school where it's not only encouraged to have your spiritual life in check, it is required. And it's not only required of the teachers that we check in, we have faculty faith formation, we have small groups that we're a part of that we're constantly, you know, cheering each other on spirituality wise, but it's also a requirement for me to not only teach English and we learn about the Odyssey, but we look at the Odyssey from a Christian lens. And, my students every week make a spiritual goal, and it's encouraged for staff to go to adoration. So it's really easy for me now. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about moving from the public sector into a private school is that now it's encouraged and required. And, I can go to Jesus anytime I need to. And that I love being in a Catholic high school.
Yeah, I bet that it feels really good because so our children's school, it's great that it's celebrated and it's where you find your community. It's like you don't have to hide. This is my people. And we see each other, at different masses around our own Anchorage. And then a beautiful thing too is when someone gets confirmed, it's like the whole school shows up at that ceremony.
That's awesome. Yeah, we had a student who was not Catholic and he knew he wanted to be Catholic before his senior year. And so he showed up every week to his parish, the one that he decided that was going to be his home parish. His parents still aren't Catholic, but just the fact that he showed up every week in the summer when he could have very easily been like worried about vacation or football or, you know what I mean? Like 1,000 other things, but he wanted to be confirmed and baptized and just fully present before his senior year. The number of teachers and students that showed up to that, because it happened like the week before school started, that were at that mass, it was one of the most beautiful things that I've ever experienced.
It is, and you got to give them credit. It's like they felt that calling and they acted on it. Someone was similar in my kid's school, and so I asked my son because we went to her confirmation, and I asked my son, "Where do they go to church?" And my son said, "Well, no, she's the only one who's Catholic." And I was like, "Oh, so her parents are not like knowing her family."
Yeah.
So it's really just her. She decided that on her own. So she went to confirmation classes and then she got confirmed. And it's beautiful. I mean, like I think baptism's beautiful, marriage is beautiful, weddings are beautiful. And I think there's something special about confirmation because it's like they're these little adults that are armed, right? They're trained and they're like new soldiers and they're just like, here's your strength and here's your new blessing. Now go out into the world. And it's great that you're in a community, and we do need that community to support them with that.
Yeah.
So the Catholic Church has sometimes a complicated relationship with the body. So how are you seeing that shift, especially with the teachings like theology of the body?
Yeah. So this is one of my favorite things to talk about. I think the Catholic Church has this misconception, especially, from Protestants looking in. We don't let women do all the things, like women can't be priests or deacons or whatever. And I was talking about this with several people, and including my husband. I said, I have never felt more honored as a woman and my feminine, that's a hard word on a Friday afternoon, femininity, than I have since coming into the Catholic Church. I have never felt more at peace with my womanhood than I have since coming home. And there are so many things that women can do, and that's so honored. And I was talking to my last guest, her name's Chantal Howard, and she has what's called the Catholic Finishing School. And she does a lot of stuff based off theology of the body. And I had told her, and it was just very God's timing. Right before she and I had talked, I had gone to Mass, and I was kind of a little bitter about the fact that here's this man who gets to change bread and wine into the body, blood, soul, and divinity of Jesus Christ. And it popped in my head. I was like, I'm kind of sad that I will never get to do that. But then I thought this, this man, yes, he's doing something amazing and great, and it's beautiful and it's wonderful. And every time it happens, it's a miracle, because I secretly, not so secretly, want to see a Eucharistic miracle before I die. And I get very humbled by the Holy Spirit, because every time, we receive the Eucharist, it's a miracle. But I had this other thought that popped in my head. And I was like, but this man will never know what a baby feels like from the inside out. And this man will never know what it's like to be so excited to hear a heartbeat that's not yours. It's a completely different person. Or, just the fact that even I think with my eldest, I was like 14 weeks pregnant, and just the butterfly movements that
Oh,
you
yes.
around. And I was like, so we can lament all we want, but we're so honored. And even Chantal, she was like, yes. So her mom had written a song about how the priest gets to say, this is my body, but sacrificed for you, or like, this is part of her mom's song. But as women, we get to say that too, because we get to carry life. And I just find that so beautiful that that's so honored in the Catholic Church. And even I don't like the misconceptions that, I'll never be a priest, right? But that's not a misconception. But what I mean is, like, I don't like that women aren't seen as beautiful and equal to men, because we are. And I think that's because I love JP2. He's one of my favorites. And I think that was his whole mission, was to show us that men are equal to women, and women are equal to men, and men have a role that they need to play, and women have a role that they need to play, and it needs to come together in this beauty. And I mean that, platonically, and in relation, like in marriage relationships. Like, I think it's really important for us to make sure as women that we, take care of our priest counterparts. I think that's super important. And I just, like I said, there's so many things for women to do in the Catholic Church. We can be part of the altar society. We can take care of our priest. We can, help religious education. Not that men can't do that. We have several men that are on religious education. But I just, like I said, my femininity has never been something I'm more proud to have when I come home to the Catholic Church.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's not a competition. It's like, okay, we're equals, but we all have our different roles. If you look at a football team, I don't know, I'm talking about football, but there's a quarterback, there's a coach, and there's defense, there's offense, and the whole team relies on everyone's strength to get their goal.
Yeah.
And the same thing, if we all want to do the same thing, who's going to do the other thing? And how are we going to function really well? And it is honoring that, because Jesus came through the Virgin Mary. He didn't just come down straight from heaven. He honored her femininity, our femininity, and her fiat. She said yes. And it's such a beautiful thing, the Immaculate Conception. And I love our tradition, because we have history behind those traditions, and there's reasons behind everything. And it's like modern society, it gets contested, like, why can't I do that? It should change now that times are different. No, it's not.
Yeah, 100% agree. And, I worry sometimes, I've done a little bit of teaching with theology of the body for our high schoolers. And I worry sometimes that they get so caught up in this, well, I'm going to be a boss babe, and I'm going to be this, and the church won't let me be it. And I'm like, that's not what it like, let's go back to basics and see what it teaches. You can do that, but also honor the fact that you can be a mother or a spiritual mother. And that's what you were made to do, that we are caretakers, and that's beautiful. And it's so needed.
Yeah. So like, now we're talking about body and being honored. So I mentioned in the beginning, I'm a women's health nurse practitioner, and I'm getting trained in Creighton in macro technology. And it's just amazing how I came back from Omaha last October with just this renewed sense of passion for women's health, because it's a form of NFP, natural family planning, but it's not body awareness, it's body appreciation. So you appreciate your body as God made you. And there's this whole following that my body, my choice, I'm going to take birth control because I don't want this and that. And there's other methods. Yes, it's your choice, but there's consequences to your choices. And you take these hormones to suppress what's going to happen with you. Like you're thinking for now, you want to be a career woman, and that's fine. But there's other ways that you can honor yourself and your body that's incongruent with the Catholic faith.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that's so needed, especially for our young women. I shared with you that I was on birth control for a very, very long time. And it's just since I've come home that I, obviously stopped taking any form of birth control because I don't believe in it anymore. But I wish, more young girls would understand it's not just the side effects of having a lighter period or all this other stuff. There's other things that go into this. Like even someone was telling me it can affect how you're attracted to a partner.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I didn't no one had ever talked to me about that before I went on it. And so I, I'm like, what, did I attract the right person? You know what I mean? So it's just, I wish that someone, and especially you, would talk to young girls. And we're starting it here, even at the high school that I'm at. Like we're in discussion on how do we tell young girls that this isn't just about your period, it's more.
Mhm.
And knowing that it can affect so many different areas of your life. So how do we do that? And I love that that's what your mission is, because
Mhm.
I think in women, I'm 40, and so women like me that were just, and I tell people all the time, like I had horrible hormonal acne. No one, when I went to the doctor, had suggested anything but, oh, just put her on birth control. Oh, she's depressed, put her on birth control. Oh, she's this. And there's lots of side effects that made this worse.
Mhm. Yeah, and I love that you're doing that teaching in your high school, because it's almost kind of like a there's this generation where the truth was hidden from them. They were led to believe that there's no other way. You have to be in birth control. This is good for you. So then there's these generation of moms thinking that that's normal and that's okay. So what happens is these moms have daughters, and the daughter says, I'm having these issues. Oh, it's okay. Let's take you somewhere so you can get birth control.
Yeah.
So I think it's really about educating, and even we're not telling them what to do, but we're presenting them with the right information and the awareness of
Yeah.
what they're putting in their body. Because I was talking to someone about this last night. So a woman takes all these chemicals in her body, but it's not just her that's being affected, because then it gets detoxified. She goes to the toilet, and then of course it ends up in our environment.
Yeah. Yeah. And just those little things. And I think that's so true. Like my husband and I were talking about like deodorant even, and just like the things that your moms, and they didn't know any better, put you
Exactly.
on. And now I'm like, I don't want my daughter to use aluminum deodorant. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things that, I don't blame my mom at all for following
Mhm.
doctor's orders or whatever. So yeah, just like understanding and unlearning everything that we had been taught so that we can relearn what the
Mhm.
truth is.
Yes. What does saying yes to where God will lead me look like when you're scared or uncertain?
Oh, this is a good question. As I'm avoiding it by coffee. I am learning to be obedient. Obedience is not something that I do willingly. I typically am a very much like I am an independent woman, is what I like to tell people. I You'll find this funny. Even in my marriage vows, I had our pastor, who was my best friend's dad. I had him skip over saying to trust and obey because I didn't want to have to obey my husband. That sounds so bad, but I did. That's 100% true. And so I'm learning to be obedient even when it's scary. So the most recent part of that is, I had told you that I have a good friend who's a priest, and he got moved mid-year, and we have a new priest that is at our school. and I don't know him. He's great, but you know what I mean? Like, he's just not my friend yet. And,
Mhm. I love how you said yet.
yeah, yeah, he's great. He really is. I got to interact a lot with him today, but I was really grouchy about things, and I went, I don't like this. I didn't take vows of obedience. And I got angry with God, and I was like, you're leading me to now have to be friends with a person I don't know. I'm going to have to be the model for the school, be friends with him, show the students that like it's good. Like, I was like, I don't want to do this. And I had several other friends tell me, A, it's going to be okay. And B, you were made to be where God put you. God can use you. Knows what he's doing. A lot of times better than we know, whether we like to agree with that or not. So I have learned over the years, and especially, now in this time, that God is putting me in specific spots for specific reasons. And we don't always know that. And we may not know it this side of heaven. However, it's just like, I know it's also an Esther quote, but Saint Joan of Arc says, like, I was made for being born right now. And I think it's true for all of us. I'm not going into battle like Saint Joan of Arc, but being obedient to what God wants me is sometimes a battle every day.
It is. It's like my older kids got confirmed about a year or two ago, and it's great that our church has classes for parents too. And one of the speakers, he said that even praying is a battle because the devil sends distractions. Either like you get tired or sleepy, or there's some noise there, or things get in your mind. It's a constant battle.
Mhm.
So, and so I'm a veteran. So like that really resonated with me. It's like, yes, we are trained for this, but there's always these distractions and we have to be really battle ready and focus.
Yeah. And I think just making sure that, God is never going to want you to say yes to something that isn't for your good. Like, even the martyrs, I love St. Lawrence. He was almost my patron or my confirmation saint, but he knew, even while being martyred, that he was doing something for the better of the church, that he was doing something good. And I just love that he considered his parish, the parishioners, the treasure. The treasure of his church was his parishioners. And once again, we may never see that good while we're here earthside, but we just need to remember that God is always calling us to something that's good, and that he never is against us.
Yeah. So my next question was, how do you discern between your ego's voice and genuine spiritual guidance?
That's good. I think so. And I don't know if this is correct, and priests can correct me if this is wrong. I always tell my students that for God, when he really wants me to show up to do something, or he has a lesson I need to learn, or somebody I need to learn from, I see it 3 times, or I hear it 3 times. Like, it shows up 3 times somehow in my life. And so then is my like clue that I really need to pay attention, because I am definitely one of those people that God has to slap over the head and be like, come on, dummy. Like, let's just do this. So I see something 3 times and then I go, oh yeah. So the really cool one that gives me goosebumps that this happened with is, I never wanted to produce a podcast at all. And then God kept placing it on my heart. I had some friends that were doing a podcast, and I get kind of jealous that they had something really cool and permanent. And I was like, okay, God, if this is what you want me to do, I'm going to need you to like be completely honest with it. And I would pray about it every Mass. Well, one Mass, God had still kind of put it on my heart, but I hadn't been slapped over the head. So one Mass, I do exactly what they tell you not to do. And we sat up front that Mass, and, I was praying, while the priest is talking. I was like, all right, God, I'm very sassy with God, and I think he's okay with that because he created me. But I was like, all right, God, if you want me to do this podcast, I need you to like make a flower petal hit the floor right now. It didn't happen. Or make the priest say this right now in his homily, and that didn't happen. And so I thought I was scot-free. I was like, okay, I don't have to do the podcast. Thank you, God, for like making it abundantly clear, blah, blah, blah. And so I go up and receive communion, and we're in the first pew. So I have a big communion line like to wait because our parish is pretty large. And so I'm in the first pew. I go up and I receive communion. I sit down in the pew, and it was if everybody around me left. And it was like he was sitting right next to me. The Holy Spirit, Jesus, whoever you want to say it, was sitting right next to me. And it literally, he said, get out of the boat. And I'm like looking around at this point, and I was like, get out. What do you mean get out of the boat? And he showed me that like all of your self-doubt is the water, right? Just like, Peter had all this doubt that like he could walk on water towards Jesus. And he was like, all of your self-doubt is this water. You need to step out and trust me. And I kid you not, I heard get out of the boat. I never listened to Father Mike Schmitz's homilies ever. I don't anymore because of this too. So one day I had finished Bible in a year. I was doing catechism in a year. And so I was like, I'll listen to Father Mike's Sunday homily while I was going on a walk for my dog. Literally, and it had nothing to do with the gospel that was read. His homily that I had just randomly picked was about Peter getting out of the boat.
Wow.
And I was like, all right, okay. And I almost threw my phone, which would have been bad because it would have hit the street or whatever. And then I had gone to a meeting to help with the youth group at my church, and they were watching a movie that talked about leaving a boat and walking on water towards Jesus.
Oh, wow. So there's your 3.
Yeah. And this was all within a week that this happened. And I went, all right. So typically, and I know that that's not going to happen for everybody, but it consistently happens for me that like I'll hear the same phrase or the same scripture will pop up over and over again. And I'm not actively looking for it. It just happens.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So you have that agreement with God. So he knows what you need when he gives it to you.
Yeah, because I'm one of his disobedient, stubborn children. And so
So if you're getting sassy, okay, that's 1. Here's 2.
Exactly.
That's great, because then you're not going to doubt, and you're like, okay, there it is.
Yeah.
And for me, when I'm having a hard time with something, I would ask for a rose, like Saint Therese. I would ask Saint Therese, just give me a rose, or sometimes I'd ask for a butterfly. Can I change it up?
Yeah.
But then, yes, I'd always get it. It could be something as simple as I would park somewhere, and then I'd walk by, and then it was amazing because it was hard to go to work that morning. So I parked my car. I'm like, just show me something that it's okay to be here today. And, and then it's like, I'll ask for a butterfly because I was being testy, right? Because I'm always asking for rose. It's common. I said butterfly today.
Yeah.
So then I walked by, and then someone just had this butterfly on their windshield.
Wow.
It's like, what are the chances? And I said, yep, okay, that's all right. There it is. There's my butterfly.
Yeah. I love that you're one of God's sassy children too.
It can be. I get scared, and I'm like, maybe I shouldn't be. I think that's my thing too. Like, I get scared, and I was like, okay, don't want to push too much.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you want to say to someone who's interested in faith, but has serious intellectual or moral questions?
Oh yeah, this one's good. I would say to them, if you are interested, especially in coming home to the Catholic faith, one of the things that helped me wasn't just doing the RCIA classes, it was doing my own research. And once again, if it's something that you really want, you're going to search for. And the other thing is, it's kind of like a slow becoming okay with things. And this may be hard for some listeners, but before I was Catholic, I really thought the moral thing was if a woman was sexually assaulted or there was incest, that the moral thing would be to abort the baby. And it took me time and really a lot of personal reflection and inner working of myself to realize that it's not the fault of the baby.
Mhm.
It's and all children have human dignity. But that's the best example I can give because I thought I had the moral high ground for a long time. And if you would have asked me, even 5 years ago, if I truly believed that was moral, I would have been like, yeah, of course it is. That's the right thing to do. You shouldn't make the mom carry something, blah, blah, blah. But it took a lot of personal reflection and study to realize that that's not true. And I have a podcast episode on it about how I went to the March for Life with the students here at the high school where I work at. And there was a woman who had a sign that said, I was conceived in rape. I don't know if we need to cut that part out of for YouTube, but, and then it said, and her life matters. And her son was next to her and his sign said, my mom's life matters.
Oh,
And it broke me. And I have said, like, if I ever see them again, like I would go and apologize for the way I thought for a long time.
wow.
You know what I mean? Because I was one of those people that I really had to come to the conclusion that my moral compass was a little off.
That's what a great story, because like it just shows you how, even though we don't think we're going to make a difference, with them just wearing those shirts and being there, I mean,
Mhm.
it's not like they have to spend all this money and like wear extravagant clothes and just be the Pharisees and like look at me. It's just they're there, and it made such a difference for you.
Yeah. And I can still picture their faces. And like, it's been a couple of years, but yeah. So do a lot of inner searching, I think is the best way to put it, especially those that come home to the Catholic faith and really learning why Mary is held in a venerable state. You know what I mean? Why do we hold the saints in such high regard? What is it took me a while to realize that the difference between worship and what true worship is and just praying and asking for intercession. Like that's not true worship, or what the difference in a praise and worship band is from and the actual mass. Like, so some of that takes time.
Mm-hmm.
And don't, just like I wanted to give up that, Sunday in Advent, don't give up on it. All of our faith is a journey. And I know that I will be learning stuff well past now, and I will constantly be learning because the Catholic Church is so old and beautiful. Like it's 2,000 years old. Be
Uh-huh.
gentle with yourself, be kind. When you don't know the answer, don't beat
Mhm.
yourself up about it, because there are people that have been Catholic their whole lives and don't know the answer.
Yeah,
So
exactly, exactly. Yeah, no, no, and it's like, yeah, some of the Catholics, like I was there, like my family would, but we're just going through the motions, and they weren't really like. I'm gonna tell on my family for this, but yes, there's some behaviors that are not really Catholic, but yeah. So it's more than just like going to church on Sundays, and it's really I am in the belief that just because you call them Catholic, just because they do this, they're not good people. And there's a big majority of that. And those are the people that give Catholics a bad name.
yeah.
They're the people that, make other people go to different churches or change religions. And it's really sad. But then we're all humans, we get infiltrated, and the thing is, it's like being open, asking for forgiveness, and being willing to accept that forgiveness. And then like for the saints, we were told, and like this has always been on my mind, because yes, we hear this a lot that, oh, you're worshiping the Virgin Mary and you're worshiping the saints. No, I look at the saints as tech support.
Yeah.
Like if you're like having some difficulties, you're not going to reach the main guy. So you're going to call and you'll get this awesome person on the other line who's going to help you with whatever trouble you have. Wouldn't you want that person's direct line? So next time you have issues. So that's how I see the saints. And I was going to say something else. Oh yeah, for the Blessed Virgin Mary. So my spiritual director, Father Perry, and I actually we co-host a podcast. It's called Blessed Mary's Messages.
Oh,
Yes, and so we are going through this book, How Much She Loves Us, and we talk about her apparition sites and her messages. I know its message is unique and there's different symbolisms wherever she appears, but across the board, it's because she loves us and she never wants to take the credit for herself. She's
yeah.
always like saying that she's always bringing us back. So the mission for that podcast is to let us know that, hey, Mary's helping us and she's bringing us to Jesus. And it's,
Yeah.
it's not about Mary, it's about her messages.
Yeah. I
I
love
think
that.
that's, something different that, that we Catholics have. And it's really beautiful.
Yeah. I did for a while like a Mary apparition on my podcast, because when I first came into the church, I thought all the Marys were different. I didn't which someone said that makes complete sense if you didn't grow up and, learn the
There's a lot of them.
like I thought Our Lady of Lourdes was completely different than Our Lady of Guadalupe. Like I thought it was different Marys. So I love that you're doing that, because I think it's so needed, because I was very confused. Like we'd be like, oh, we're going to talk to about Our Lady Undoer of Knots, which I like to call Our Lady of Hot Messes.
Oh, yeah.
Which, by the way, I think she would be like in agreement. I often have to call on her because I am a hot mess. So. But like, I didn't realize that she was the same as like Our Lady of Guadalupe, who I also have a great devotion for. So yeah, no, I love that.
Wow. We should do a joint podcast about like.
Yes, I would love it.
Yeah. So how do you, so what's been your hardest question about faith and where are you with it now?
Okay, so hold on. I am also going to stand up real quick and turn the lights on because it's snowing again.
I noticed it got kind of dark where you
Yeah, it's very dark. Hold on. There we go. Yeah, the weather has been really strange. So I live in Kansas City, Missouri. So it's just, yeah, when you said Omaha, I was like, oh, you were close.
We'll be closer because my son, we're going to Benedictine College next month because he's going to compete for the presidential scholarship.
Oh, let me know if you want to meet up. We'll talk about that later. But
yes, okay.
Let me know if that's actually really not, it's like 40 minutes from where I live.
Okay.
Yeah. And my, the football coach is good friends with my husband.
Oh.
Yeah. So we've been out to Benedictine a couple times. I even have like a Raven Nation flag in my room.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
I loved it. That's the only college we've visited so far.
Yeah.
But I was just so drawn to it. They have the monastery there. And then, do you know about those medallions that's on the ground?
No.
Oh, okay. So there's specific medallions on the ground. Like every few feet, you'll see something on the ground.
Yeah.
So then when we were at the meeting, the president said, have you guys seen these medallions on the ground? We're like, yes, what are those?
Yeah.
And he said they're specifically placed in the shape of a rosary. So if you look, if you do an aerial view,
oh, that's cool.
Because the campus is consecrated to the rose, to Holy Mother. And then they have a grotto that I don't know if it's the rocks or the water that was used to make it came from Lourdes.
Oh, and we love the grotto there. It's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we have been out a few times to do the football camps, and then it's just a beautiful campus. Yeah. I love it. I wish they would. I really want to get a master's in theology, but they don't offer it there. And so I'm like, oh, maybe I'll wait until they offer it. Just put that in the ear. Okay. So what was the question?
Oh, what difficulty that you're experiencing right now in your faith, and how are you? I think that was my question.
Okay. Yeah, I had to think about it for a minute. Okay, so this happened last year about this time, and it's still something that I often think about. And I think it's not specific. It is specific to Catholics, but it's not specifics to just Catholic Christians. I think it's a Christianity as a whole. So my aunt, who believed in God, who was baptized Lutheran, lived a life as well as she could. She helped the homeless population in Nashville. She cared for my grandparents when they were very sick. She passed away last December, right after Christmas. And for me, in the Catholic space, I had a really hard time with the concept of purgatory, or just this idea of heaven and hell and what happens if you're a good person, and yet you may not be proclaiming your love for God all the time. Because as far as I know, she didn't go to church. She was confirmed in the Lutheran church, and they did all of that. And so she took communion, but she hadn't been to church in years. And she also was very liberal in her political beliefs. And we had talks about that. And, she had been divorced, and I really struggled with this idea of, did she go to heaven? Did she go to hell? Is she in purgatory? And what does purgatory mean for me? Earth side. Do I pray for? How will I know if she's in purgatory? How will I know if she got out of purgatory? If she went to hell and I'm praying for her soul in purgatory, how does that help? Does it make me feel better? Does God, I just went on this like spiral of just questioning all of it. And in the end, I don't have any good answers because it's still something I struggle with, especially for my non-Catholic family that, unfortunately, one of my other aunts is very sick with cancer. And it's just something I question frequently. Like, what does this mean? Will I see them in heaven? Are they going to be up worshiping with our Lord? And so I don't have any specific answers. The answer that I finally came with my aunt that did pass away was that I don't need to know. You know what I mean? It's not for me to know yet. And that will be something that I find out heaven, maybe. I don't know. Maybe I won't find out in heaven. Who knows? But it's not
Maybe ask for your 3 signs.
Exactly. And so it's not for me to know that. And I keep praying for her soul in purgatory. And if that's where she is, then I pray that she gets out. But the other is in God's hands. And the more that we can surrender, because that's the other thing that I've come to learn this year. Everything that we have is on loan from God, like our life, our friendships, our relationships with our spouses, our children, every talent that we have is on loan. God gives it to us to possess it for a little bit, but it's not ours, it's his. And when you finally get to this point where you can surrender that over and you give your ultimate faith into God and his plan, that helps a lot. That helps mentally a lot. And that helps my soul a lot, because it's not that I'm apathetic and I stopped caring. It's that I can't worry about it because it's not for me to worry.
Yeah. So that's the whole concept of surrendering and trust.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so like when you were saying that, it made me think of the parable of, and I'm bad. I don't memorize like the verse and like.
Yeah. The Bible according to Cristy is what we're like the Bible.
That person in this parable. Where like the boss left and then he came back and he asked the servants, what did you do? Did you invest well? And like one didn't do anything, right? Like one hit and then one, I doubled your investment. So like, you mentioned like everything we have is on loan. It is our responsibility to evangelize and to help other people, because that's how we multiply our gifts and our graces.
Yeah, exactly.
So yes, that's Bible according to Cristy. All right, friends, if today's conversation, wait, before I do that, how do you want people to get a hold of you?
Yeah, so I have the podcast Facebook page is Stand Kneel. It's like stand, comma, kneel, comma. There's so many commas. So stand, comma, kneel, comma, now what, with the question mark. And then it says podcast at the end. You can find that on the Facebook page. Sometimes I don't always link everything to that Facebook page. So it's better to follow me on Instagram. And unfortunately, Instagram does not allow commas. So it's stand _ kneel _ now _ what. It's the worst. I don't know why I chose such a handle, but
it's so fitting though. It's like, okay, you do this and now what? It's perfect.
Yeah. And then you can also email me at standkneelnowwhat@gmail.com if you want to get a hold of me that way. I am making it also a goal this year to set up a website. So I have one that's there. It's just not together, if that makes sense.
Yeah. But yeah, you're an Apple podcast, and I listen to I love your guests and I love the topics that you talk about. And if you're watching on YouTube, I do have her QR code here on the screen. You just scan it and it'll take you directly to her podcast.
Yeah.
And as usual, we have, I have the show notes here and we'll give her information as well. And if today's conversation resonated with you, please do us a favor, hit that subscribe button right now. Whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on your favorite podcast platform, subscribe so you don't miss future conversations like this one. And here's the thing, if this episode made you think, made you feel something, or you even want to, or gave you an idea that you hold on to, share it. Send it to a friend who's been searching for something deeper, and post in your stories, leave a comment, and let me know what landed for you. These conversations matter. And when you share them, you're helping someone else who needs exactly to hear what we want to talk about. And I also want to hear from you after this episode. What's one practice, whether it's faith-based, food-based, or just something that helps you function better, that's made a real difference in your wellness journey? So drop it in the comments and let's learn from each other, because this community is all about real people sharing wisdom. Until next time, remember, wellness isn't about perfection. It's about showing up, doing the work, and nourishing all parts of your body, mind, and spirit. That's what faith, food, and function is all about. We'll see you in the next episode. Until then, take care of yourself.
Thank you, guys.